don't think these are especially difficult. It's just like I said, there's not a whole lot of questions to work through. So on number 27 on 1-2, they give us, what do they give us here? Write a function who represents a vertical stretch by a factor 2 followed by a translation 1 up of f of x is x. So they give us this function, f of x is x. They're asking you to do two things to it, okay? They're asking you to, what? Stretch it by a factor, vertically stretch it by a factor of 2. So vertically stretch by a factor of 2, and then they want you to do one more thing. They want you to translate it 1 unit up. So move it 1 unit up. Hopefully this one's a pretty easy one, okay? This one that you just be able to knock out real quick. If you're going to stretch it vertically, remember, this is a little bit tricky because there's only one thing here, just the x. When you're stretching something vertically, when you stretch, you multiply. You multiply, okay? And if you're going to vertically stretch, you have to multiply the entire thing by that, okay? So it's just, there's only one thing there. You're going to multiply by 2, it's going to be 2x. If it was like x plus 5, you would multiply all of this by 2, okay? When you stretch vertically, you multiply everything by it, okay? If you're horizontally stretching it, you just deal with the x, okay? And you do the opposite. Instead of timesing 2, you divide by 2, okay? So, we're vertically stretching by a factor of 2. It's going to turn that into 2x. Then you're going to slide it up one spot. Remember, when you add or subtract, when you slide, you either add or subtract. When you translate, you're either adding or subtracting. It's vertically, it's up, okay? So it's either going to be with the x or off by itself. With the x, remember, it slides it back and forth. We're moving it up or down. We're moving it up, okay? So it's going to be off by itself here, and it's what you think it would be. It says 1 up, so it would be plus 1. And that's all you would type in because it already has the g of x equals this. So just type in 2x plus 1. Any question on that one? Hopefully that one wasn't that bad. Okay, so number 28. Same function, f of x is x. So it gives us this linear function, f of x is x. And they want you to do two things. They want you to vertically shrink it by a factor of a third. Is that what they're doing? Oh, 3 down first. 3 down. Then, in the order matters, we move it 3 down, and then vertically shrink it by a factor of a third. And it has to shrink it because it's less than 1, okay? So this time we're going to slide this thing first, okay? This kind of hits on what I was talking about 3 or 4 minutes ago. We're going to move it down 3. So, we're going to take this x, and off by itself we're going to put minus 3. Now, what I said about 3 or 4 minutes ago is this. When you stretch or shrink, you multiply, okay? When you are vertically stretching or shrinking, you have to multiply everything by that factor. If you're horizontally doing it, you would only impact the terms that have an x on it, okay? So we got times the whole thing by 1/3, the whole thing by a third. So if we do that, 1/3 times x is 1/3 x minus 1/3 of 3 is 1, okay? So again, I just said it a second ago, I'm going to say it again. We're stretching it or shrinking it, so you have to multiply, and it's vertically, so you have to multiply everything by that factor, okay? And it was shrunk because it was by less than 1. 29. F of x is the absolute value of x. And they want you to do a couple things to it. They want to go translate 2 right, okay, let's put that down. 2 to the right, and horizontally do something to it. And a horizontal stretch by a factor of 2. Horizontal stretch. By a factor of 2. So the first thing we're going to do is move it 2 to the right. When you move it, remember, you either add or subtract. We're going to add or subtract, and it's right or left. Right or left is always with the x, and it's always the opposite of what you would think. You would think it would be plus 2 because it's to the right. It's actually minus 2. Add, move it 2 to the right. Absolute value of x minus 2 and the absolute value symbols. Now, we're going to horizontally stretch this by a factor of 2. So what we do, remember, is if it's stretched or shrunk, you're going to multiply. Okay, you're going to multiply. And you only, when it's horizontally, it's only the things that have an x with it. Just the things that have an x with it. So the only thing we're going to deal with is this x, okay? But everything is the opposite with x. Everything is the opposite of x, okay? So normally, you think, oh, you're going to times by 2. You're going to divide that by 2. Now, I'll be honest, I don't know the computer. You're either going to divide by 2 or take half of it. Which is it? Divide by 2 or take half? It's the same thing. I don't know if the computer chooses one or the other, or will take both. Didn't I help you on this one, this exact question, or not?
It was something similar.
Was it x over 2 or was it 1/2 x? Do you remember what we typed in?
I can check.
It's okay.
I can't remember.
Just do this. When you guys start typing stuff in, it's either going to be absolute value of x over 2 minus 2 or absolute value of 1/2 x minus 2. Which of those is right? They both are. Which one will the computer accept? I don't know. It might accept both. It might only accept one or the other. Okay. If you're worried about what do I type in on a test or write it down on a test, I don't care. It's the same answer. Okay. I mean, would you rather I take half of your money or divide your money by 2? It's the same thing. Okay. Half of something is the same as dividing by 2. So don't worry about. I mean, just type in one of them, and then somebody will eventually say, "Oh yeah, this is the one that works." Number 30. All right, it's 30. We have another absolute value graph. Yep. Fx absolute value of x. And what? Then when I reflect on the y-axis, reflect on the y-axis, and what else? Translate it 3 right. 3 to the right. Okay, and we kind of talked about this, I think it was Tuesdays when we talked about this. You're going to reflect it in the y-axis. If you're reflecting in the x-axis, if you remember, you put a negative out front. But if you're reflecting the y-axis, you just change the x, just the x. Any term that has an x on it. So, we have the absolute value of negative x. Nothing wrong with that. But if you remember, the absolute value of negative x is the same as the absolute value of positive x. Because absolute values make negatives positive. So I'm just going to make it the absolute value of x. Okay? And then we have to move it 3 to the right. When you move it, you're going to add or subtract. Either add or subtract. Okay? And if it's to the right, right and left is with the x. It's got to be here with the x. And it's going to be the opposite of what you think. Was there a question? No?
The announcement thing is.
That was going on?
Yeah.
Oh!
They said the announcements are broken in like
Someone's up there talking?
I think they're trying to mess.
Oh, gotcha. So, I love it. Every now and then Kim forgets to turn the announcements off, and I usually wait a second or two, then I call her, because Kim, if you guys know Kim, she's going to say something she probably shouldn't say over the PA without realizing it's on, so. But anyhow. Okay, and then 3 to the right. So again, it's going to be with the x, okay, and it's the opposite of what you think. You would think plus 3, minus 3. Okay. Two more. These last two hopefully are easier. Okay. They give us this function. You're looking at the black one, and they're changing it to the blue one, okay? So this right here, it's kind of hard to see what they did. But first off, they're both numbers 31 and 32 looking at the same time. They're both absolute value graphs. So we're going to have the g of x they want. So what we're going to have is g of x equals the absolute value of x. And they did two things to it in everyday language to get from this black graph to this blue graph. One thing they did is they flipped it upside down, and they also moved it. Now be careful here. People in the back might not be able to see it. You might go, well, they moved it down 1, 2, 3, 4 spots. It goes by 2s. It doesn't go down 4 spots. It went down 8 spots. Okay. So it's going to flip it upside down. So if you remember, when you flip it upside down, you got to put a negative in front. And then they moved it down 8 spots. They moved it, so it's either going to be plus or minus. Up and down is out here. It's going to be minus 8. It's going to flip it upside down, move it down 8 spots. Last one. Again, they give us a function, and they move it. This one they did not flip, okay? they simply took this one, the black one, to get to the blue one. Then this time they are counting by ones, okay? They went one to the right, and they moved it down, down three. I'm gonna write that down. They went down one to the right, down three. One right, three down. So it's gonna be the absolute value of x. If I move it one to the right, now I'm right and left, that deals with the x. You're gonna either add or subtract. If it's to the right, you would think it would be adding one, subtracting one, yep. And then down three, what else are we gonna do? Minus three out back. Those weren't that bad, those last couple, I thought those were
So
really
why
easy.
is 31, why is the negative on the outside of the
Because it
absolute value
flips it.
instead of the inside?
When you flip it, I use the word oppositize the entire thing, okay? In all honesty, I tell you what, if you remember, I think it was Tuesday when we did this. If I gave you this for a grade, 90%, most of you probably be pretty happy with that. But if I made it a negative 90%, you're not so happy. You got that's a whole lot worse than a zero. Okay, but if I put absolute values around it, okay, well, what do I do this? You happy now?
That'd be 60%.
No. What's the absolute value of 90? 90.
90.
Now what is it? Does it matter if I put the negative?
No.
Whoa.
Yeah. Well, yeah, if you put it on the
It flips
inside.
it, so.
Are these the same scores?
No.
Which one did you want, the top one or the bottom one? Bottom one, that's a 90%. That's 90, but that makes it negative. Where you put the negative changed it. If you put a negative inside the absolute value, what happens? Nothing. It does nothing. Put this negative outside it, flips it upside down. Good questions, very good questions. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so you got the rest of the hour. You guys can work on this. I'm gonna be honest with you, very likely we're gonna introduce new material tomorrow at least, because I really think if you get right on it, I mean, you got more than a half hour here. You should be able to get this assignment done. You don't have to get it done today, but I don't think you're gonna need a whole hour tomorrow to work on it, so I'll probably start new material tomorrow. Okay.